Baneful magic, shadow work, power, and the ethics of the forbidden arts. The term alone evokes unease, yet also a strange pull. Say it, baneful magic. It is an emotionally loaded term. This is the domain of the hex, the curse, the binding, the thorned path of sorcery. But what if we've misunderstood it? What if baneful magic is not a moral failing, but a spiritual technology, a mirror to the shadow, a tool of reclamation? Today we journey into the shadowed realm of baneful magic, its cross-cultural roots, psychological underpinnings, ritual practices, and ethical implications. Far from being simply the magic of revenge, this is the magic of boundary, sovereignty, and spiritual balance. Baneful magic refers to any intentional act of magic aimed at causing restriction, reversal, disruption, or harm. Its forms include hexes, to harm, curses, to condemn or afflict, bindings, to restrain behavior, jinxes, to bring misfortune, crossings, to bring spiritual blockage. Such workings are not new. They stretch back into the earliest magical traditions. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Maklu tablets, a series of incantations against witchcraft, include commands to bind and destroy one's enemies through divine intermediaries. As one Maklu tablet from the 7th century BCE says, "May she be clothed in pitch, covered in soot, and bound by the flames." Similarly, in tribal societies across the globe, baneful rites are used not as cruelty, but as communal justice. These acts regulate social harmony, enforce taboos, and maintain energetic balance. In many Aboriginal Australian traditions, the pointing bone is a ritual gesture believed to direct fatal force, but it's not wielded arbitrarily, and only when moral consensus deems a severe breach of sacred law. And people that do this ritual are sometimes seen as being a bit on the edge. Baneful rituals appear wherever human beings call upon invisible forces to protect, correct, or retaliate. In ancient Egypt, the execration text recorded the names of enemies on pottery, which were ritually smashed, a form of sympathetic destruction. In classical Greece, Diphiones, curse tablets were inscribed on lead and buried in graves, invoking chthonic or underworld deities for vengeance. And in African diaspora traditions in Hoodoo, Obeah, Palomayombe, baneful workings are grounded in justice, rebalancing, and spiritual cleanliness. The Yoruba proverb says, "Curses are not evil, they are messages from imbalance." In traditional or shamanic cultures from Siberia to the Amazon, they have long understood illness, misfortune, and conflict as being spiritual in nature. Baneful acts in these traditions may arise from soul loss, taboo breaking, or ancestor anger, and healing often involves counterspells or rituals of restitution. In India, both Vedic and Tantric traditions include powerful, baneful mantras known as abhichara. These are occult rites designed to destroy, stupefy, or subjugate and include mohana, delusion, uchatana, expulsion, and marana, death. Whilst controversial, Such rites are traditionally justified only in extreme circumstances when dharma must be restored. As the Mahabharata teaches us, a weapon is a protector when in the hand of one who knows dharma. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, when he described the shadow as the unconscious repository of everything we reject in ourselves, this is rage, fear, envy, anger, power. As he said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Baneful magic can become a sacred rite of shadow integration if practiced with mindfulness. The key questions are: what have I refused to acknowledge? Where do I feel powerless? What part of me is demanding to be seen? From this lens, the spell is not aimed only outward. It reflects a struggle for inner balance. As in the Kali sadhana in Hindu Tantra, where the practitioner confronts fierce, wrathful divinity, baneful rites may catalyze personal transformation, confronting fear to transcend it. In Burn and Tibetan Buddhist traditions, wrathful deities like Sherab Chama, the wrathful mother, Mahakala, and Yamantaka are not demonic, but these are enlightened beings, destroyers of illusion, defenders of truth. And of course, in this tradition, you also have deities such as the lion-faced Dakini, which rather than being baneful in the traditional sense, are designed to destroy the image of the cause of the baneful energy in our life, crushing it like chalk smashed between our hands. So when is it right to curse? When does binding become protection or retribution become justice? Most magical traditions emphasize the intention, proportionality, and preparedness of the practitioner. These are three in nature. Is this response proportionate? Have all mundane avenues been exhausted? And finally, are you prepared for any spiritual consequences? In traditional witchcraft, baneful workings are not used defensively, but for justice, not vengeance. As Robin Artisan said, witchcraft is not a religion of love, it is a religion of justice. Indigenous shamans may consult spirits or perform divination before acting. The Indian concept of karmic consequence reminds us that energy flows in cycles, and baneful acts, if rooted in ego or cruelty, can rebound. As the Atharva Veda warns us, do not let anger guide your tongue or your ritual. Let wisdom hold the reins. Baneful magic is highly symbolic and draws on sympathetic resonance. Common tools across traditions include puppets or effigies to represent targets, black candles, symbolic of reversal or decay, nails, pins, broken glass for piercing or wounding, and let's not talk about cursing jars. Baneful herbs such as belladonna, wormwood, hemlock, or Indian herbs like datura and biloa. And please, if you ever work with these, take precautions. They are very dangerous. and black mirrors, which can be used for psychic projection or spirit contact. A basic working may involve naming the grievance clearly, creating a symbolic representation such as a puppet, a sigil, or a mandala, and charging it with breath, mantra, incense, and sometimes blood. Enacting the binding through knotting, burning, or burial. And remembering the traditional European witch's maxim, to curse with clarity, not rage, is to wield sacred fire. In Indian agaric rites, baneful mantras are inscribed on bark, bone, or ashes and offered in graveyards or at cremation grounds, places of spiritual potency. But what do you do for grounding, protection, and, yes, really importantly, aftercare? Baneful workings are open doors. They share shadow and spirit. Just as a traditional pathworker or shaman must cleanse their soul after soul retrieval, a magician must restore equilibrium. Post-working practices can include salt baths, smoke cleansings with mugwort, frankincense, sandalwood, or neem, offerings of milk, liquor, coins, or flowers to the spirits involved, or journaling or divination to track dreams or the effects. Some Indian traditions suggest chanting the Gayatri mantra, Om Bhubhuva Sva Tat Savito Varanyam Bhargo Devasya Dimahe Dio Yona Prachodayat Aum, or invoking Sri Ganesha after heavy ritual work to reset the energy. Om Gan Ganapate Namaha. As the witch's counsel says, do not cast a curse in rage. Wait, center, then act if still necessary. And remember, baneful magic is not an identity. It is a tool, one of many, in full spectrum path of spiritual sovereignty.